Yeah, my friends, President Ramaphosa has finished his speech. I've never seen him so determined, but that was predictable. I mean, here was a president who's trained in law. He has a BProc degree from University of the North. So when he speaks, he knows what he's speaking about. He's talking, and by the way, he's also represented by advocate Toby, SC. You see, the problem with South Africans is that you seem to be, it's good to be skeptical, to be a skeptic. But I think with us, it's more of cynicism than skepticism. You see, the first time when this thing emerged and President Ramaphosa was alleged to have been contemplating to resign, one of the media houses invited Dr. Matthew Sposa. I've got immense respect for that gentleman, who actually talked about it, hinted that there were errors in law in the panel report. I still remember that discussion very well. I can't recall the details, but he didn't give details, but he was talking about errors in law, like the president is saying. You see, we are a great nation, but our greatness is going to be tainted by our gullibility, and we are prepared to be gullible and to be naive and to follow trends, popular trends, to be populist and to be crowd pleasers. And in the process, we engage in political claptrap and a lot of conspiracy theories. Now, I'm not going to post a lot of videos. I've been posting throughout the day and yesterday. And President Ramaphosa is saying, yeah, we need to clean up. He didn't use those words. He says we are doing good work in the Madlanga Commission. Yeah, where's Malema? He must account about the allegations of his donating money to Mswazi. Where did the money come from? So a lot of people, and President Ramaphosa says that there are people who want to reverse what is actually happening. Look, we might be naive, but we must believe, I mean, when you want to present a different viewpoint, please engage us in a reasoned argument. What we are hearing from the Madlanga Commission would make nonsense of the allegation that President Ramaphosa is engaged in cover-up. If he were engaged in cover-up, he would not have actually constituted that commission, which is doing a very good job. By the way, they are taking a break after Friday so as to write the second part of the report. Then we go for the third. The third part, that's when they would go for the jugular. Yeah, I hope in this one also they are going to make some referrals. Because again, South Africans have forgotten that the Madlanga Commission has the power to refer certain matters to the law enforcement agencies to say, this one, you can refer it to the DPCI and, there could be prosecution, there could be arrests. As we see arrests. Yeah. Jelekhan Trong to some of you. So, let's see what happens. South Africa is an exciting country. Yeah, this is not a game of marbles. This is not a game of marbles. A trivial game of marbles. And there's no chess playing here. So, those people who are involved in malfeasance, Pope Sultans. Some of them, some of their cheerleaders will be here and will be insulting us. I mean, you cannot hoodwink some of us. We know certain people are going to talk and talk because they are expecting favors from some of these people with allegations of malfeasance and corruption. Yeah, things are happening. South Africa is a movie. But how can you explain a situation where some drugs, police come across drugs and confiscate them, and then some of these police sabotage this and steal those drugs in order to sell them? So who's ever stolen those drugs, the long arm of the law. This is the time, perhaps this is the time when South Africa is going to be turned around. I've never seen Ramaphosa this determined. And his determination was sort of at some kind of, had a tinge of anger. Now, let me conclude my video by saying, I've just decided to go to bed, but I'm just going to try and get the judgment of the Constitutional Court. I'm interested in reading the dissenting judgments like that of Justice Kolapen. And also, the joke, I was watching ENCA with Francis Head and one of her colleagues is called Ngaba. And this Professor Mazwe Majola, I my friends, I'm sorry to say this. I've said it in one joke. I don't want to come across as a person who actually criticize other people all the time. But who is this Professor Majola? I've never seen an analyst who is just there to agree with the suggestions and proposition that is being actually given to him. He just agrees. He doesn't inspire confidence, that man. SS. I didn't want to listen to him because I was trying to save myself a situation where I have to comment about. But there's something wrong with ENC and some of these TV stations, because they and this Ngaba also was actually being nasty to the comments that are made by Professor Killand, saying, when people expect you to be a yabas, to agree with them, they have a viewpoint that they are not prepared to change out of engagement by another person, and then they present themselves as some radicals. I mean, they were saying, Professor, the president must take the nation to his confidence and apologize. And this Mazwe Majola was saying, people are forgiving. Lame comments. People are forgiving. They will forgive the president. That's a political analyst who is a professor. Sorry, I didn't want to say that, but sorry. Rather, we must learn to listen to insightful people like Dr. Matthews Posa. People who would present reasoned argument, profound and reasoned argument. You can't just apologize. And also and Francis Heard was actually, I'm sure she listened to this young man by the nom diplôme Zeitgeist, who was saying, what is the crime? What?
You know, South African politics is never boring when somebody says, South Africa is a movie, and honestly, you can't even argue with them anymore. 1 minute it's parliament drama, the next minute it's commissions, leaked reports, political analysts fighting on live TV, and everybody suddenly becomes a constitutional law expert on Facebook. Welcome to South Africa, where every citizen is either a football coach, an economist, or a legal analyst depending on the week. Now recently, a South African man posted a lengthy video reacting to President Cyril Ramaphosa refusing to resign over the Phala Phala scandal, and let me tell you, this man came prepared. He sounded like somebody who drank 2 cups of coffee, watched Parliament for 6 hours straight, and then decided, you know what? The nation needs my opinion immediately. And his main point was simple. He believes Ramaphosa is not backing down because he believes he has legal grounds to defend himself. The man repeatedly emphasized that Ramaphosa studied law and understands exactly what he's doing when he speaks publicly about these matters. According to him, the president sounded more determined than ever before. Now, whether people agree with him or not, the video touched on something very important in South African politics today, the difference between skepticism and cynicism. And honestly, that's actually an interesting point. Skepticism means questioning leaders and demanding accountability. That's healthy in a democracy. But cynicism is when people automatically assume everything is fake, every process is corrupt, and every institution is useless before evidence is even fully examined. The man argued that South Africans are becoming too cynical and too willing to follow popular narratives without carefully examining the legal details. Now, of course, many South Africans would disagree with him strongly because the Phala Phala scandal raised serious questions from the beginning. 4. Those who may not remember, the controversy centered around the discovery of a large amount of foreign currency hidden at Ramaphosa's Phala Phala farm after a theft reportedly took place there. Opposition parties questioned where the money came from, whether it was properly declared, and whether the president handled the matter appropriately. And that's why the issue became politically explosive. Because once money starts appearing inside furniture at a president's farm, people stop thinking, this is normal. South Africans immediately become detectives. Suddenly your uncle who failed matric in 1998 is explaining international banking laws at a braai. But the man in the video argued that people ignored legal flaws that some experts allegedly pointed out in reports related to the matter. He specifically mentioned that there were legal experts who suggested there may have been errors in law during parts of the process. Now here's where the discussion becomes important educationally. In a constitutional democracy like South Africa, allegations alone are not automatically proof of guilt. Processes matter. Evidence matters. Courts matter. Commissions matter. And people are allowed to defend themselves legally, even if public opinion has already decided the outcome. At the same time, public accountability is also essential. Citizens have every right to ask difficult questions about powerful leaders. That tension between legal innocence and public trust is exactly why scandals like this become so divisive. And honestly, South Africans don't just debate politics. They emotionally invest in it like it's the Soweto Derby final. People choose sides immediately. Families fight in WhatsApp groups. Somebody leaves the family group after sending 7 voice notes. Then 3 days later they quietly come back like nothing happened. The man also defended the ongoing commission processes and investigations, arguing that if there truly was a massive cover-up, certain investigations would never have been allowed to continue publicly. In the first place, he seemed especially focused on the idea that some people are ignoring developments that do not fit their preferred political narrative. And that's another interesting lesson here. Sometimes people only trust institutions when those institutions agree with them. The moment a report or investigation produces an outcome they dislike, suddenly the entire system becomes captured or fake. But democracy becomes dangerous when nobody trusts anything anymore. Once citizens lose total faith in institutions, conspiracy theories start replacing facts. Now, does that mean criticism of Ramaphosa should stop? Absolutely not. Criticism is part of democracy. South Africans have every right to question leaders, journalists, commissions, and analysts. In fact, that's one thing South Africans do better than almost anybody on earth. This country can turn a 2-minute political statement into a 7-day national debate. The man also criticized some television analysts and commentators, saying some of them simply agree with popular viewpoints instead of presenting deeper analysis. And to be fair, this happens everywhere in modern media. Sometimes debates become more about performance than substance. People want dramatic sound bites. They want conflict. They want somebody shouting, "This changes everything," every 10 minutes. Meanwhile, ordinary viewers are sitting there trying to figure out whether anyone actually answered the original question. What made the video interesting wasn't necessarily whether the man was right or wrong. It was the passion behind it. You could hear frustration, concern, sarcasm, and even exhaustion. He genuinely believes South Africa is at a turning point and that the country must avoid becoming driven entirely by outrage and populism. And honestly, that's probably the biggest educational takeaway from this whole discussion. Democracy is messy. Very messy. Leaders will always face scrutiny. Citizens will always argue. Media houses will always host heated debates. Political supporters will always defend their side passionately. But healthy democracies survive when people can disagree without abandoning facts, reason, or critical thinking. Because once politics becomes only emotion, only slogans, only blind loyalty, or only blind hatred, then nobody is learning anything anymore. And South Africans know this better than most countries because this nation has one of the most politically active populations anywhere in the world. People care deeply about corruption, governance, accountability, and justice. Sometimes the debates get chaotic. Sometimes they become hilarious. Sometimes they become exhausting. But they matter. At the end of the day, whether people support Ramaphosa or criticize him, the real test is whether institutions function properly, whether investigations are handled fairly, and whether the law applies equally to everyone. Because in the end, South Africa is not a game of marbles, as the man passionately said in his video. Although sometimes, watching South African politics at 9 p.m. with Twitter open and a plate of pap next to you honestly feels exactly like reality TV mixed with courtroom drama and a telenovela at the same time. And somehow, we still tune in every single day.